Let's talk about fixtures and how to pass it on the real estate exam. I know you're not the only one who gets confused because there's a whole bunch of stuff about personal property, real property, fixtures. Let's break it all down. A fixture is something that was personal property that is now so affixed or attached to the real estate that it becomes a fixture, something part of the property. So let's break down what we mean. Personal property is anything that's not real property. My phone, my crystal, my candle, all the things are personal property because they're not part of the building. They're not part of the real property. When something is personal property, like this crystal, and I attach it to the house in such a way, let's say I bolted it to the wall and made it artwork. And it wasn't just nailed to the wall, but it was like attached to the wall, or maybe I put concrete up there and I like set it in the concrete so that it was like affixed or attached to the property. Now it's called a fixture. It's that simple. And they make it seem so freaking complicated. One of the things to be aware of is you're going to hear the word Maria as an acronym for the test, the legal test of a fixture. And let's explain what that means and why. In your real estate career, one of the things that you're going to have to look out for most is making sure that buyers and sellers are not confused about what comes with the property, real property, and what doesn't come with the property, personal property. And so if there's a discrepancy, and God forbid they go to court or there's some kind of lawsuit or E&O claim, the way the courts decide who's right and who's wrong is by applying the legal test of a fixture. Now here's the thing, you need to know what it is for the test, and I'm going to explain it to you in a quick minute, but I want you to understand that the legal test of a fixture is the last resort. The ideal is that the parties decide ahead of time what's real property and what's personal property and put it into the contract, into the agreement of sale. But let's say there's a mistake or a discrepancy or some confusion. Let's say that we come to the house and this is attached to the wall, and so the buyer thinks that they're getting it, but the seller knows that they're taking it. Now we have a problem. So the legal test of a fixture, if it ever gets to that point, is the acronym MARIA. So the M stands for method of attachment. And that's why I said it's not just stuck to the wall. It's like, imagine there was cement and I stuck it in there and it was, it was part of the wall. That's the method of attachment. The A, this is my favorite one, is the agreement of the parties, because even if it's attached to the wall and it's really part of the real property now, the parties can agree ahead of time that the seller gets to take it with her, that she gets to rip it down off the wall and take it. So agreement of the parties is that supersedes everything. And then the R is the relationship of the parties. And this comes into play mostly in the courts with landlord-tenant. So when it's landlord-tenant, they tend to look at things a certain way. And that's going to matter. When we're dealing with buyers and sellers, the relationship of the parties isn't going to matter too much. And then the I is intention of the parties. So when I hung this on my wall, was it so that it would become permanent artwork? Or was so that it would be just displayed for me to look at it every single day while I have my coffee until it's time for me to move? So intention of the parties. And then the A is adaptation to real estate. So that would be like, this is hanging on the wall. Does this do something, like, or is it just decoration? Adaptation to the real estate might be a refrigerator. We know a refrigerator is generally personal property because you plug it and take it. But if it's a built-in, like a Sub-Zero, that's adapted to the real estate. Now that is part of the real estate, because with a Sub-Zero, it's hooked in and we have cabinet fronts that sort of match and make it look like it's part of the kitchen. So the A for adaptation to real estate is going to show us whether it's more of a fixture or personal property. And so this is it. This is simple. And you might be tested on Maria. method of attachment, agreement of the parties, relationship of the parties, intention of the parties, and adaptation to real estate, Maria. Or they might just say to you, is it real or is it personal? Is it a fixture or is it real or is it personal property? And then you can, in your mind, think about the Maria test to decide what it is. And here's my best tip for you. And this is not gonna work in a court of law, but this works on the exam, is if you're not sure if it's personal property or a fixture / real property, because a fixture becomes real property, imagine that you took the house and you flipped it upside down and shook it. Whatever hits the ground is personal property. Everything else is real property or fixture. That should help. It's a lot simpler than you think. I know these words and these terms can overwhelm people, but I just want to tell you, you can freaking do this. Just take one term, one question at a time, and never lose faith that you can do this, because the life you want is on the other side of this. If you need more help and you want a more structured way to study, I have a study pack that you can get, and the link is right here. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.